Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to work on the CSS for this web page that we've been working on, our password generator. If we look at it, it's really not that great. It doesn't look that awesome. But we have all the things we need. We just need to actually add some style code to make it behave the way we want it to. Or, sorry, not make it behave, but make it look the way we want it to. Every time I start a new design project, the first thing I do is I pick out what colors I want to use on the website. So this icon has this really nice looking green. So I figured out what the actual hex code was for that green. That's going to be one of the colors. And then I like this kind of bluish black here that I'm going to be using. That's going to be my background color most likely. And then I will use this as my accent color for other things, like maybe the button. I'll make the button that green color. Maybe I'll make some of the text up here that green color, stuff like that. So I always pick my colors before I start. Web development projects, you want to keep it to 2 to 3 colors max. You don't want to overload the person looking at your site with a bunch of random colors, but these two look really nice together. So I'll use these. Okay, let's get into the CSS. So if we click on our, let's get rid of that. If we click on our style, notice that we have some code already in our CSS. I don't want that code there, so let's go ahead and delete it. We want a blank CSS page ready to go. All right, and what we're going to do is I'm going to think about the things that I want to apply to the entire page. And I'm going to put those things inside of this star selector, this asterisk selector. What this means is I'm going to access everything on the page, and whatever I put in between these two brackets is going to be applied to everything on the page. So let's first get rid of all of the margins. If we look at our web page, right now you can see there's a little bit of a margin. There's a little bit of a gap between the edge of the page and, you know, everything else. Especially up here, you can definitely see it. I want that to be 0. So I'm going to hit that, and now notice everything sucks up against the corners of everything. I want margin to be 0 so that I can set my own custom margins later, and I don't have to worry about extra margins that I'm not accounting for. Same thing with something called padding. Padding is the distance between the content and the outside of the box that the content is in. So I'm going to get rid of padding. You're not going to see any difference here, but if we didn't do that here, then we would start seeing some weird stuff happening whenever we created our the rest of our website. Next, box sizing. This is just going to give us, it's going to allow us to change the size of our boxes in a specific way, and the specific way is border box. That's going to be important for later. And then the final thing is I want to use the same font on the entire website, but I don't want to use a font that already exists in a basic web safe font. I want a really nice font. Let's go to fonts.google.com. And in here we have all kinds of fonts that we can choose from. There's really cool stuff in here. That one's nice. Oh, that one's really nice. I like that one. Okay. So yeah, we could just choose the font that makes sense for our project. I like, you know what? I've told myself I'm not going to keep using the same font for every project, but I can't help it. Okay, so there's a font that I really like. It's called Poppins. So P-O-P-P-I-N-S, Poppins. Look at that. Look at how nice that looks. Okay, I am going to use Poppins. I told myself I wouldn't use it every time, but it's just so nice. I'm going to use it. So to use this font in our website, we have to click Get Font, Get Embed Code, and then copy this code here. So click Copy Code. And over here in our website, we actually need to go back to our HTML, and inside the head section, we need to paste that code that we just copied. And that's basically going to allow us to use the Poppins font. Okay. Now over in our style sheet, we can say font family Poppins, And we'll give it a backup of sans serif, meaning if Poppins doesn't work for some reason, it'll pick a sans serif font for us. So if we refresh, we should see this font change. And it did. Oh, look at how nice that is. And everything changed, by the way. Not just the H1, but the font inside my password and inside my button. Perfect. All right, next, let's add that really nice background color to my website. My lights went off again. There we go. So to do that, I want to apply the color to the body, and I want to type background, and I'm going to give it that hex code from Adobe Color. So over here, I can copy that hex code and paste it in, and it gives me that nice background color. Hey, that's really nice. But now my words are really hard to read. So let's change the color of the text here on the body. Let's just change it for everything color, and it's going to be white. All right, there we go. White. And yeah, those greens look really good together. Okay. Next, we need to start applying code to the specific parts of our website that we built last time. So if we look here, we have a div called container, or with a class of container. We have a div with a class of display. We have an input field. We have some images. So we have a lot of stuff that we can apply code to. Let's apply some style to this container class here. We'll go back over. And to apply style to a class, we type period, then the name of the class. So container. And I want to give this container some margin, and I'm going to say 12%, which means it will be 12% away from the edge of the screen. We'll say width is going to be 90% of the screen. And max width is going to be 700 pixels. So if I'm looking at this on a giant screen, we're never going to go more than 700 pixels. So now you can see that we've given ourselves a 14% buffer, and we've made it so that if we were to adjust this, the size of this page, it adjusts with the page. Perfect. Alrighty, so that's the container class. The display class, this is going to be quite a bit. So display, because we have a lot that we want to change about this content. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is set the width to be 100%. That's going to make it so that it takes up the entire width of this container that it's inside of. Then I'm going to change the top and bottom of the margins to be custom sizes. So margin top is going to be 50 pixels, and margin bottom will be 30 pixels. Then let's set a background, and I'll set that to white just so we can see it. All right, refresh. All right, there we go. So now we see this is the thing that we're adding some code for. Okay. Beautiful. I'm going to keep that background color actually because I like it. Let's change the text color though to a nice gray. 333 is a pretty good gray. Let's change the display type to flex, which will allow us to move it a lot easier. For example, we can align -items, center, and it allows us to use this justify content called space between, meaning it's going to align our content really, really easily for us. So now we've aligned the content better just by those two lines of code. Let's add some padding. And I actually want a different amount of padding on the top and bottom than on the left and right. So I'm going to use two numbers, 26 and 20. There we go. So now we have some nice padding here. Beautiful. And I don't like how sharp the corners are. So I'm going to add a border radius. Border radius of, let's call it 5 pixels. All right, border radius of 5 pixels. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay, so now we have these rounded corners here. They're a little bit easier on the eyes. Perfect. Okay. Now that I'm looking at this, I actually don't like the way this text is kind of boring. Let's make this a lot nicer. So what we can do is inside the container class, I can access the H1 and apply code directly to that. So let's do that. So down here, container H1. It's as easy as that. Now the code that we write here is going to apply directly to that H1. Let's change the font weight to 500. And that's going to make the font stand out a little bit more. Now notice that it's a little bit thinner and it seems a bit more substantial. And I want to increase the font size as well. Font size. Oh, size. Let's make it 45 pixels. Ah, nice. That's much better. But I actually want, I think I want the words random password down here below it so that I can add a different color here. And yeah, it'll look nicer with it down here. So what I need to do is I need to create a span. So if we come back over here and take a look, if I apply code directly to this H1, it's going to apply to the whole thing. But I don't want to make this 2 separate H1s. So what I can do is I can actually just type span, create a span element, and put random password inside the span. And now what I can do is I can container H1 span. I can apply code directly to that span. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color to that nice green. So copy that. Let's see what that looks like. Get a random password. Hey, that's cool. That's nice looking. But I want to give it, let's do this. Border bottom. We'll give it a 4 pixel border. Make it solid. And we'll also make it that same color. So now it has a nice underline, which I like. Let's give it some more padding on the bottom as well. Padding, bottom, 7 pixels. So that underline goes a little farther down. And then I actually want that to be on the next line. So what we can do is we can add a break element in here as well. So BR for break. And that'll actually push it to the next line. Yeah, that's what I want. That looks great. So generate a random password. Okay, cool. So that looks really, really good. Let's move on. Let's see, what's next? So let's fix this image here. Let's fix that so it's not so big. So that image is inside of the display class. It's right here. So it's the image inside the display class. So let's go to our CSS and let's type display image so that we can apply style directly to that. And I'm going to make it much smaller by setting the width to 30 pixels. And I want to make it so that whenever I hover over it, my cursor changes to a pointer so it can show, basically showing the user that you can click on that. So cursor pointer. Refresh. Much better. And now I can click on that. Cool. Alrighty, next, let's fix this input box. It's really dumb looking, so let's fix it. It's inside the display class, so display input. Let's get rid of that border around it because we don't want that. And let's get rid of the outline. And let's actually change the font size. So font size 24 pixels. Oh, so much better. So much better. Yeah, that looks great. Okay, that's exactly how I want that to look. Okay, perfect. All righty. Now the only thing we have left to program or to style is this button here. So let's see. That button is inside the container class. Okay, so let's go back over here and dot container button. Okay, so let's get rid of the border and the outline of the button. So now that border and outline went away. Great. Let's change the background color to that green that I like. Nice, much better. Let's change the text color to white. And let's increase the font size to 22 pixels. And let's, oh, I put a semicolon there instead of a colon. And let's change the font weight to 300. Okay, let's see if that looks nice. Oh, much better. Much, much, much better. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Let's change the display style. So display will be flex and align items, center, justify content will be center. Yeah, let's give it some padding as well. And I'm going to make it 16 pixels by 26 pixels. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Much nicer. I want the rounded corners like in here. So let's do border radius 5 pixels. And let's change it so that our cursor turns into a pointer whenever we are over it. Okay. Nice. So that's a nice looking button, but this picture, this image is still too big. So we need to style this image. That's the last thing we need to do, actually. So this is going to be dot container button image. And let's just set the width to 28 pixels so it's much smaller. And let's give it a little bit of margin. On the right side, so a little bit of margin on the right, because if we look, it's really close to the words. So I want to give it a little bit of space. Hey, that looks way good. So we have generate password, yeah. That's a nice looking website. So with just this, I mean, it's a lot of code, but we've taken something from the really gross website we had before to something that looks really nice and modern. In the next video, we are going to actually set this up so it functions properly. So when I click on generate password, it's going to make a password in this field. And when I click this, it's going to copy that password to my clipboard so I can paste it somewhere else. Thanks for paying attention to this very long video, and I will see you next time.